Chapter 3, Holly Jolly. Barb finds herself in an empty pool at Steve's house. Everything is dark and covered in vines. She calls for Nancy and then sees a monster in the pool. She tries to escape, but the monster catches hold of her. Meanwhile, Steve and Nancy are making out on Steve's bed. Steve and Nancy then make love as Barb is being taken by the monster, screaming for help. Nancy, you suck. Joyce is still talking to Will through the lamps. Jonathan tells her that the light flickering is probably due to faulty electricity, but Joyce is unconvinced and is sure that Will is there talking to her through blinking lights. You may be concerned, don't be concerned. It actually gets answered in season 4. So, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas prepare to rescue Will. Dustin tells the others that Eleven is the best weapon they have because of her telekinetic powers. Mike asks Eleven to meet them after school and gives her his watch. Joyce takes out her Christmas lights and puts them up, but realizes she doesn't have enough and goes back to her general store where she works and asks for more, which she receives. Hopper investigates at Hawkins' lab, where the official tells him that Will could not have gotten in there. Hopper asks to see the security cameras and is shown footage of the night Will escaped. Hopper realizes that the officials are lying to him because it rained that night and there's no rain on the video. Nancy sees that Barb is not at school and asks Steve, Tommy, and Carol if they saw her after the party at Steve's house. No one has seen her. While looking for rocks for their slingshots, the boys encounter Troy and James, the bullies, who tease them about Will and trip Mike, who scrapes his chin. Then, Karen Wheeler shows up at Joyce's house with a casserole, as Joyce is finishing putting up all the Christmas lights. Karen is visibly confused and very concerned at all the lights, and Joyce tells her that she put them up because Will loves Christmas lights. Who are you to judge a grieving mother? As the two women talk, Karen's young daughter, Holly, sees the lights blinking and follows them all the way to Will's room. She sees a hand start to come through the wall, but Joyce discovers her and asks Karen and Holly to leave. By the way, the hand was not Will's hand. It was far too big. Therefore, it was a monster. Hopper looks up Hawkins' lab at the library and finds articles about a woman who sued Dr. Brenner for kidnapping her daughter. Hopper starts to think that maybe Brenner is involved with Will's disappearance. Jonathan develops the photos he took at Steve's party in the school's dark room, where other students are. And he develops the photos he took of Steve and Nancy at the school. I can't help you here. Nancy calls Barb's house and learns that Barb did not come home the night before and that her mother hasn't seen her. Steve, Tommy, Carol, and Nicole, who is just a random girl who just saw Jonathan developing the photos. Anyways, they confront Jonathan about spying on them the previous night. They take his bag and tear up the photos. Nancy arrives just as Steve takes and smashes Jonathan's camera. Nancy is visibly upset by this. She gathers the torn pieces of the photos and goes home. Here's my question. Nancy is upset that Steve destroyed Jonathan's camera. She's not upset that Jonathan took pictures of her in her bra without her knowing. She's not upset about that. She's upset that Steve got upset and destroyed his camera. Justice for Steve, man. Anyways, while waiting for the boys at the power lines, Eleven sees a cat, causing her to have a flashback to Hawkins' lab. Brenner and the other scientists seem to want her to do something to a cat, but she refuses, clearly upset. As punishment, they take Eleven into a cell, which is like 4x4, very small, as she kicks and screams for her Papa. Papa Smurf. I couldn't find a good reference, so I just used Papa Smurf. Before they can lock her in there, she forces the door open with her mind and kills the two men. Brenner sees this and seems intrigued, but not horrified. Eleven collapses after that use of energy, and Brenner carries her away. Back in the present, the boys meet up with Eleven. She asks about what happens to Mike's chin, and he tells her about the boys who who teased him, calling them mouth breathers. Breathers, not breeders. Anyways, that detail I mentioned earlier about Mike closing her in the closet, that's why it was difficult for 11 to allow that to happen, because of the 4x4 room they would lock her in. By the way, it had no windows or lights, so she didn't like it. Nancy goes back to Steve's house and finds Barb's car still there. While looking in the woods behind Steve's house, she briefly sees the monster run through the woods, scaring her and prompting her to flee. Joyce sees the Christmas lights illuminate along the wire, one by one, going in the direction of Will's room. Actually, no, they don't. They lead to a crawl space where Joyce is able to talk to Will with a tangle of lights. She asks him to blink the lights once for yes and 2 for no. She asks if he's alive, and the lights blink once. She asks if he is safe, and the lights blink twice. So he's alive, yes. Is he safe? No. This leads to the iconic painting of the alphabet on the wall behind the couch with the Christmas lights. She asks him where he is, and he spells out with the lights, right here. Next, he spells out R-U-N. Run. The monster comes through the wall as Joyce runs in terror. He literally claws. It's terrifying. Anyways, thinking that 11 can help them find Will, they ask her to lead them to him. Yeah. She takes them to his house. Lucas gets upset. As they argue, sirens can be heard. So they bike after the sirens, where they end up at the quarry, where they see police drag what appears to be Will's body out of the water. Mike yells at 11 for having deceived them about Will being alive and storms off.
Hey and howdy there. That was the end of episode 3. Please come back for episode 4.